Welcome to the channel. It's Mopac. Lately, I've been seeing the news about the gentrification. You see it all over the place about Mexico and all these big cities south of Mexico where they're having an influx of people coming in from all over the world and staying there and living there. And people are complaining that the prices are rising. So today I want to talk about with gentrification. I've been here for the last 10 years, and what I've witnessed being here in a border town, which is Tijuana. When we first got here, things were so cheap. You know, we used to pay rent, a monthly rent of like $245. I think it started off at $235, then it was $245. That same place is going about $600 now, and it's a small little apartment. When we first got here, we rented a little apartment from my wife's aunt, and it was really tiny. It was in a very humble home, but I was grateful that I had my freedom. I was grateful that I had somewhere to stay, you know. But since then, what I've witnessed, and things have evolved, you know, because of a lot of people are coming to Mexico. And since this is a border town, one of the things about being in a border town is that people cross back and forth and they have work on the other side of the border. People work on the other side of the border and they come and they live over here and create some kind of gentrification, even though they're locals, because the amount of money that they make is nowhere near what we make here in Mexico. I can understand because things were so cheap 10 years ago. My wife, when I first got out of prison, my wife would give me 500 pesos, which is roughly around $25. And these $25, I had to like make them last all week, and they basically did. Now 500 pesos is nothing. So, you know, things have changed a lot drastically. You know, rents here in Tijuana are out the roof. I mean, it's not crazy like Mexico, which are outrageous, you know, because that's kind of like a higher end, you know, I guess nomad and expat kind of lifestyle that they want to live in. But right here, because we're a border town and people work on the other side, you know, it's business, and the landlords, you know, they want more money. They want to sell their homes at higher prices. You know, I understand that, you know. So, you know, I can be guilty of it too, because I sometimes have complained and sometimes I might get upset. But my wife always reminds me, because she's American, she tells me like I'm gentrifying as well, and I'm like, yeah, I guess, you know. So I come to reality. So I understand, you know, from a different perspective. You know, everyone's trying to find a better quality of life, and to be honest, considering where I've been here in Mexico, not just Tijuana, I've seen a lot of beauty in Mexico. There's so many places in Mexico that are gorgeous, you know, and I would love to live there as well, you know. So we would like to retire somewhere as well, you know. But for now, you know, this is where we live. This is where we have our home. Coming into this area, this particular area is like a no man's land. It's basically the outskirts. It's where people are getting pushed out to because the city is so expensive, and people are coming over here because this is a little bit cheaper. Things are cheaper over here. They can buy properties for way cheaper here, and they're moving out here. I want to show you like different areas, you know. I want to show not just what everybody shows you on TV, the nicer parts of Mexico, where they go ahead and talk about gentrification. No, this is the result. Where I'm showing you, this is the result of it. You know, as far as Tijuana, people are having to move out here and live out here because it's way cheaper. I don't really know prices out here, but I'm assuming it's much more cheaper than where I live. You know, we were lucky enough that 3 years ago we bought a home, and at the time it happened to be when COVID happened, so there was not a lot of business, there was not a lot of things being sold, and we took advantage and we bought a home, which was fairly a good deal, and now that home is doubled in price easily. So we got lucky, and I'm grateful to God that He blessed us with this opportunity in those circumstances, you know. I never really came to these areas until I started installing garage doors. Yes, I'm a tattoo artist, but I started installing garage doors as a side hustle, and I started installing a lot of doors in these areas because there's a lot of development over here. You know, people are buying properties and moving out here. You're into construction of some sort. You know, it's a good area to work in. You know, but it is a little bit of lower end living conditions here. I would usually come out here because I ride a bicycle. I like to do a mountain biking thing, and I always come out here and ride a bicycle in the mountains. There's a park right here that I go to frequently. I started noticing, I want to show you this particular area that is getting built into recreational areas because we don't have a lot, but this particular area right here has this beautiful park. It's kind of like a ranch. It is a ranch, and they started building into it now. They're building housing developments here, and they're chopping away at whatever that we have. Right now it doesn't look as beautiful because summer and things are dry. But so this is Natura. This is part of Natura. This is basically development that's built in the middle of mountains, way away from the city. So you see, that's basically the area that I go hiking in, and the development that is here in the middle of nowhere. That's all a new construction site over there. If you can see it, all that is being built as. You can see the construction being built, and they're just chopping away at the mountain and just taking the development up the mountain, which is crazy because there's nothing here. There's no stores. People make makeshift stores. There's nothing here. I don't really know the specifics of cities such as Mexico and the richer part of Mexico where they have the gentrification issues, or Oaxaca, Guanajuato, and stuff like places like that where a lot of gentrification is happening. I don't know what's going on over there and the issues that they really deal with, but I know that one thing for sure right here in Tijuana is really growing rapidly, so much so that it's just building. So many developments are being built here in Tijuana. A lot of more people are coming. The people who are coming here are basically the people who work on the other side and just can't make it over there, and things are too expensive in the United States, and things are too expensive in San Diego, and most of the people who live in San Diego who work over there come over here to Mexico have a better quality of life here in Tijuana or Tecate, Ensenada. I know it's a normal process. It's just part of life that gentrification takes place and inflation takes place because of it. You know, we have to all adapt, and but the only thing that's kind of it's unfair is that our wages don't go up. We're basically paid pennies here in comparison to what other countries make, as far as the North America. But it seems like everything goes higher in prices except for wages. I've been tattooing for 10 years here in Mexico, and honestly, my prices are still the same. Things, I don't really charge that much more than what I did back in the day. So as far as that, like, I'm still making the same money, but I still have to pay a lot more in rent. I have a tattoo studio. We have our home. We have bills. We have everything, but everything's gotten so expensive, and we're still making the same amount of money. Fortunately, we still have a good quality of life, and I'm grateful for that. But for a lot of people who it's hard for them, I can't even imagine, from being way over here in the middle of nowhere, they still have to travel to their jobs, and a lot of those jobs are in Tijuana, and that's a long way, believe me. We got the dam right here. It's called La Presa. This is a park that they're building there. I mean, that's kind of dry. It's kind of brown, but it's a big park that they're building, you know, one of our first like gigantic recreational areas that we have here. We don't really have a lot of recreation. I think I've mentioned that before. You know, the average salary a week is like $175 to $200 here in Mexico. You know, I don't know how people do it, because with that type of money, like even I would have a hard time making it, yet let alone there's families that live off of that, you know, considering the rents are above five, six, seven, $800, and that's like average. You know, now you got rents that are way over $1,000. I think it would affect me if I didn't have my own home. I think with the rising cost of rents, it would be hard for me to even be paying that every month. So I'm grateful that we have a home now. So I really understand how hard it is to live here day to day. The pro side of it is that there's a better economy, I guess. You know, there's much more money. You have people coming over here who have money and are able to pay for things, you know, and because of that, a lot of businesses do succeed and are well off. So, but unfortunately for a lot of people who don't receive some end of that money flow, it's really hard for them, you know, and I understand that. We're going to be going to Merida, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo next month, and I want to see how much the development has occurred over there, because we went there, it wasn't such a hot place as far as the market is, and things are growing so much more. And from what I see, because I've been looking at videos, you know, about what places to visit and stuff, I always like to do that before I go somewhere. And this is our second time going there, but things are much more different from what I remember. I see a lot more development, a lot more houses being built, a lot of more land being built, a lot of more deforestation, because they're building land, you know, so they can market to foreigners. And the reason why I say foreigners is because the prices are not affordable for the locals, you know, so it is being targeted, you know, and my opinion about that, I mean, I welcome everybody. We welcome anybody. That's not an issue for us. You know? It's a side effect. It's a thing that's happening a lot more here in Mexico, especially the hot touristy parts of Mexico, where there's an influx of people wanting to come over and live out here, you know, which is great. You know, everybody deserves to live a beautiful life. And for those who don't know, Mexico is beautiful. We have so many beautiful places that are amazing, you know. So my opinion about that is that, you know, it's not so much of me being this upset about the current situation, because I'm not. It's much more of how things are being managed by the big corporations, as far as like how they're going about it. I'm not an expert in any sense. I don't know nothing, you know. This is just my opinion of being here in Mexico for 10 years, and I've witnessed so much change. Look at that. So it's a double-edged sword, because in some places, even here, I think that a lot of our culture is being diluted, you know, for various reasons. You know, now I go places and they give me menus that are in English. I'm like, what? I speak Spanish. I'm Mexican. You know, when I go travel, that's when it's more prominent, where everywhere I go, automatically they think that I'm a foreigner coming in and they want to talk to me in English. Although I understand why, but at the same time, I'm kind of offended. I really dislike that, you know, but it's part of what our country is becoming little by little. And the truth is that even here in Tijuana, everywhere I go, everywhere, I always hear somebody speaking English, whether it's people coming to visit or people who live here. It's common now. I didn't make this video and, you know, make it more of an issue than what it is. You know, to me, it doesn't really affect my life, or,
do I really care? You know, because for the most part, this country is always willing and accepting everybody, and that's what I love about this country. It's my opinion, and so here's what I wrestled with. Do I celebrate growth or admit that it's affecting us in various ways, affecting the people who've been living here for their whole lives, who have had to change the way of their life, the way that they live, because it's hard to live with such an inflation because of gentrification and rising prices and everything. It's not just gentrification in itself, but things are going up, so it is hard, you know. But it's one of the things that's always crossing my mind, and I'm up and down with the way that I feel about it.
So thank you for watching. Like I said, this is my story. This is my experience here in Tijuana for the last 10 years. Hope that you can share your experience if you live here in Mexico, or if you're looking to come here in Mexico, or just interested in the fact about gentrification, because you hear about it lately a lot because of all the stuff that's going on in Mexico. So thank you for watching again, and till next time.